There should be a way to just record the Skype.
All right. I was trying to pull up that thing where I had all the people who were involved in the Westbrook trade, but I don't even need to.
I had it pulled up. If you want me to pull it back up.
I wanted to ask you, like, what of the 40 things involved in the Westbrook trade can you name? But I wanted to prep you so it wouldn't be a trainer.
I can name some of them, but a lot of them are the old things. Is that okay?
Yeah, I know Bobby Marks tweeted out. There was an actual like perfect. Somebody did a graph that was really good.
I mean, I can name some stuff.
Two, three, four, five,
I don't know.
Seven,
what I'm naming.
10,
what I'm naming may not be
11.
What you're referring to as the trade. But I know a bunch of But there's some stuff I definitely do not know. So this will be a fun one-man game of skeletons.
Yeah. All right, here we go. All right. Oh, I'm recording there. Make sure I'm recording. All right, and welcome to Fast Break Breakfast NBA podcast. My name is Keith. Got a big show today with Jared Weiss and Caitlin Cooper coming on later. But right now, the one, the only John Burr. John, how are you?
Now, hey.
John, you are in, where are you? Hollywood, California? What are you doing? West Coast?
Dude, I'm Encino, man. I am the fat Brendan Fraser.
Brendan Fraser's making a comeback. I know we're about body positivity here.
Getting fat is sometimes just a good move.
Good career move. I've never seen Encino Man. Did I miss much?
So I saw every Pauly Shore movie as a youth and was quite convinced that they were, rarefied air of entertainment. I'm not going to go back and find out if I was right or not. But I did think, as I was driving around today, I thought that it was kind of indicative of how, narcissistic Hollywood is, that they would call a movie Encino Man, when I don't think anybody else in the world knows what Encino is.
I think that's how everyone found out about it.
Yeah, and until today, I had never been to Encino.
Yeah.
So, but Hollywood's just like, Encino Man, it's funny. Everybody knows about Encino.
I assumed initially it was like the Mesozoic or the Paleolithic. I thought it was an era.
Right. So when I think of muscly men, I think of Encino Man now. And I don't think that's what I don't think Encino Man means like Cro-Magnon man. I think it means man who lives in Encino. But maybe I'm wrong. Does Encino in fact mean some sort of Australopithecine that I just didn't know this?
You're asking the wrong person. I clearly had no idea what it meant. I mean, I'm speaking of parts of Los Angeles. There's a new movie. I mean, a new TV show they're advertising right now. I want to say during the Olympics, La Brea, which is just maybe like I've only seen like a little teaser. Is it supposed to be some kind of horror show about the tar pits coming to life? What's going on?
Like I know of the La Brea tar pits, but that's all I got.
Right, but I know of that.
Right.
Mainly from the video game L.A. Noire. That's how I learned about that.
I think I only know about it because that's where they throw the bodies in Sin City comic books.
Exactly.
Yeah. This is just a very narcissistic world, much like
Google
how Lakers fans will continuously predict every free agent to their team, but as it turns out, they are correct.
Well, so let's start there. And by the way, Google tells me Encino is only a neighborhood in Los Angeles. It doesn't mean anything else as far as I can tell. The Lakers, we kind of tore them apart a little bit for letting Alex Caruso walk. It turns out they had a plan B, or they had a plan. They got Malik Monk to come for the minimum and also signed Kendrick Nunn to the taxpayer mid-level. Those additions kind of fill out the roster nicely. Like, what'd you think about how they wrapped up their free agency?
I mean, I feel like despite the what's the opposite of accolades? The detractors, the poor reviews. I feel like the Lakers are having a pretty good offseason.
They're having a pretty decent offseason. I'm curious about this issue. did Malik Monk make a good decision by going to the Lakers for the minimum? Let's theorize that perhaps another team offered him like $7 or $8 million a year. Is this betting on himself to go to the big market Lakers and be a wingman to this quote unquote super team? Is that a good financial decision for Malik Monk?
It seems insane to me, but because to me, and maybe this is just my NBA hipster showing, but to me, Malik Monk is a well-known name in NBA circles. No, really? He's not like a slam dunk.
I don't think your average Joe NBA fan knows a ton about Malik Monk.
He just didn't seem like Bill Simmons talks about him all the time.
That's true.
And he can't even say his name correctly, which is endearing to me. Malik Monk.
I thought that was the David Fincher Mank, but yeah.
But like to me, it's just like that's a guy who's been on fantasy teams. That's a guy who gets paid already at this.
Well, so he's a guy I feel like in fantasy leagues, he's not someone who's like a must roster. He was a waiver wire. You pick him up for a couple of weeks, let him go.
End of the year heater.
Like I'm not even sure. Like, everyone's pointing to him shooting 40% from three last season, and he scored a lot of points. But it's like, if the Hornets were comfortable with letting him walk,
you could do worse than going to catch the ball from LeBron in the corner and shoot a three. You could do a lot worse.
It's a great spot
in a money-making scenario.
Do you think
just for him, I don't feel like it was necessary. But this is the part where when it comes to market value, et cetera, like this gets really hard for me. Like, I don't know what everybody is wanting. Like when we see guys like Miles Turner go kind of like without fanfare and nobody wants him in a trade, that throws off my whole thing. So I don't know so maybe Malik Monk, maybe there's nothing there for him.
Do you think Malik Monk was aware when he agreed to play for the minimum that they would be bringing in Kendrick Nunn the next day? I feel like that would have affected.
Couldn't have been.
Yeah, that would have affected my opinion. If I'm Malik Monk, I'm thinking, listen, I could be the closing two guard. I could be the starting two guard. What if I play 30 minutes a game alongside LeBron, AD, and Westbrook? Like, my Q rating is going to blow up. Everyone's going to know about me. I'm going to get easy looks.
And to be clear, I think Kenny Nunn is better than Malik Monk already at this stage in their careers. And so, he's probably feeling pretty stupid.
Yeah. The other part about the last few days is, or at least on Wednesday, this was finalized. Russell Westbrook finally, officially got traded to the Los Angeles Lakers. And this ended up being roped into Spencer Dinwiddie going to the Wizards. There was a 5-team trade. I want to say there was something like 15 pieces to this trade. John, I'm putting you on the spot. This is your own.
There are 15 pieces.
This is your own game of scones.
Okay.
I guess we should have sang. Should we sing?
Dinklage,
Peter Dinklage, Peter Dinklage, Peter Dinklage, Peter Dinklage. Game of scones. Just John Burr. Just putting you on the spot. You can only lose. There's no winning.
Yeah.
There were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Bobby Marks has 12 pieces to the 5-team trade. How many of them can you name? These will be players and or picks.
I think I can name.
Okay. We're looking for 12.
I think I can name 7.
All right, go for it.
There was a pick swap that I think was second-round picks.
No, that was the bet. We're going to count that one. The 2025 second-round pick swap. Shams dropped. There's going to be a pick swap.
That's the most memorable part to me.
And then it turned out to be a second-round pick swap, and that is objectively hilarious. We're giving you credit, absolutely. The Nets will receive a pick swap, the right to swap picks with Washington or Golden State based on a previous deal. So that's, yes, you got one.
I'm going to say Russell Westbrook.
Thank you, Westbrook, yes.
I'm going to say Spencer Dinwiddie.
Yes.
I'm going to say Kuzma Daddy.
Kuzma Daddy, yes.
Montrezl Harrell.
Yes.
Ken Sang Clown Posse.
Yes. That's KCP for new listeners.
How many do I have?
Yeah, that's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. You've gotten 6 correct.
Chandler Hutchison.
Chandler Hutchison is going to who he play for?
He's not going to the Wizards. He's going to. He can't be going to the Bulls. He's going to. I know this. Is he going to the Spurs?
He's going to the Spurs.
Oh!
Well played.
But this is where I think I nailed this perfectly. I don't think I know anymore, unless I think there are more picks involved, but I don't.
There are. So how do you know how the Spurs? That's actually confusing. Like how the Spurs got involved. There's another team we're leaving out. So far, you've touched the Spurs, you've touched the Wizards, you've touched the Nets, you've touched the Lakers. Do you even know who the 5th team is? It's totally fair not to know who the 5th team is.
I don't know.
It's the Indiana Pacers.
Because Aaron Holiday's involved. There you go. Okay. Yeah. Well done. So Aaron Holiday's involved, and also the draft rights to the guys. Isaiah Washington.
Very close. Isaiah Jackson, the draft guy. Washington took him.
Is the homophobic actor, actually.
I think you're right. So Washington and the Pacers swapped, and the draft rights to Isaiah Todd are going to the Wizards.
Oh,
the Pacers.
Isaiah?
Oh wait, I have an I there. I need to make sure who that guy's name is.
Ian.
I don't even know how to do that.
Imhotep. I don't know. I can try. Todd Pacers. Will that tell us?
It is Isaiah Todd. Nailed it. Hey. All right. And then the only other things involved were a 2024 second round pick and a 2022 second round pick. So you got it, everything but good. 2 second round. Yeah, well, you basically got it. That's the drafted guys, no one can blame you for that. So well played. But
I followed this closely because we all thought it was like a Brad Beal trade.
Well, we all Grizzlies fans, we were all hoping somehow Eric Bledsoe would be involved.
We got edgelorded pretty hard. Yeah.
Wrapping this up. We'll go ahead and get you out of here with this. Wrapping up with you. I think the biggest news last couple of days is probably DeMar DeRozan choosing the Chicago Bulls in another sign and trade where the Spurs got a little draft taste here as well. Spurs have been very, very active. What are your thoughts on the Bulls? One, becoming extremely exciting. I don't care what anyone says. But what are your thoughts on the Bulls paying DeRozan a ton and also doing a pick or sending a first-round pick and a couple of seconds to make this happen?
I don't know if I love it considering how stacked the East is 1 through 10. But I will say this. The Bulls have made moves that have made maybe not demonstrably better, but the team is better. Lonzo Ball, I think DeMar DeRozan, I think getting the ball out of Zach LaVine's hands like as the go-to ball handler all the time will really help Zach LaVine. And I despite me thinking Zach LaVine is like a very low-tier superstar, I really like him a lot and I'd love to see him in a position where he can succeed. And I think him not having to be prime, because right now DeMar DeRozan is a point guard now.
Yes,
that's what
he's like a point guard / forward dude. Like it's kind of fun. I mean, he can't really guard anyone, but he plays bigger now, and
he for all intents and purposes is a point guard. So I expect him to be the primary ball handler and to let Zach LaVine be more of a slasher and scorer. And I think that's a really good thing for the Bulls. And I am definitely a person who thinks basketball is a better place when the Chicago Bulls are interesting. So I'm excited for it. So and like DeMar DeRozan, pretty unwatchable at times on the Spurs. This will be more fun. This is a better fit as far as watchability.
I think the fit's great. I am thrilled about the Bulls doing this. I'm worried, like, do I have dunked on brain that I don't like the trade though? Like, cause I do feel like why did the Bulls make such a big move? And they've given up the pick hurts. And it's like where they are, they already have a future pick still for the Vucevic trade.
It could be a pretty good pick.
Yeah, like they already gave up the 8th pick this year for the Vucevic trade. Like they've already traded so many picks, and I know good players are better than picks, but like you said, the East is stacked. I think that's gonna be the theme of this episode. That's what Jared's gonna talk about. So what's what Caitlin's gonna talk about. The East made a lot of moves in free agency where I think a lot of teams are very optimistic.
I have no idea what the playoff scenario is in the East any longer, and I think that's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so I'm excited that the Bulls did it, even though I can't come to grips, I guess, exactly what the cost was. That's actually going to be my Vegas trip.
We've got some. I'm so glad that you're actually getting to go,
baby.
Dude. Yeah, we're going to make so many breakfast puns about the rising yeast of the East. It's going to be amazing.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, I was just saying I'm going to enjoy Vegas, but the cost might just be too much. And I hope I just mean financially. Anyway, John, thanks for coming on. Enjoy LA. Talk to you soon.
Adios. All right, cool, man.
Thanks, man.
Joined right now by Jared Weiss. Jared, how are you?
Phenomenal. Free agency has destroyed me, as it has for everybody in the NBA, but that's why we love it, right?
Destroyed you in what sense? Destroyed you as someone who maybe likes the Celtics, or just as someone who follows the NBA trying to keep up? Okay.
Trying to keep up. It's just
gotcha.
Like I'm just looking at the list of the Bulls transactions right now and trying to wrap my head around it. Although the Los Angeles connection is pretty phenomenal, but there's just so many teams that have taken so many steps that I don't know if I fully understand what their end game is. Although I guess with Chicago, it's just desperately trying to get better with a bunch of guys that probably are going to be good enough to get them over the top, but maybe they will be.
There's only a couple teams where I'm really like, what are you doing? The Bulls, I'm like, oh, you're just trying to win games, and that's admirable in a sense. Sure. You're trying to get the best available player you think you can get, whatever future costs be damned. You're just going to go get the guy. Let's dive into that. But before we do, I would be remiss. I need to ask you about your breakfast. Have you had breakfast, Jared?
I haven't had breakfast yet. It's noon in Boston, and I still haven't eaten breakfast yet. I tried to push us back 20 minutes just so I could run over to Flower and grab some, but that's all right. After this, I'm going to scarf it down.
Yeah, what would you have had if I hadn't made you come on here so early?
So there's a cafe called Flower right around the corner from me. Highly recommend them. And I get their breakfast sandwich, which comes with, I think, like arugula and some sort of mustard on it. That's delicious. And then a chai latte because I'm basic and it's delicious.
That sounds good. I got no criticisms of that. I got to say, looking at your Zoom right now, I know people on the podcast can't see it. On YouTube, you might be able to see it. Your apartment is very, very nice. Is this the apartment that Matt Damon had in The Departed?
Yes. And you know that because Mark Wahlberg is waiting outside my door right now to kill me.
Yeah. I mean, I thought the rat you have in your background a little heavy-handed, but it's giving me some of those same vibes.
Why did they have to do that shot? It was just too on the nose.
It's art, man.
Come on, Marty.
We were talking about the Bulls.
Yes.
Do you think the cost is too much? I was talking about this with John earlier. I think the cost might be too much, but I also love it. Like, I love the idea of DeRozan and Lonzo Ball teaming up with Zach LaVine and Vucevic.
Yeah, I don't think the cost is too much because this is it. Like, this is their swing. So you got to, who cares how much you're paying DeMar DeRozan if DeMar DeRozan is the last guy you're going to be paying in this whole package. I think Lonzo Ball is probably more important to them than DeMar DeRozan is. DeMar, I assume, is going to start, I think. Is he going to start? I don't know. I guess.
You would assume they're starting.
It's not clear.
I mean, I guess we're thinking about it right now. I would assume they're starting Lonzo, Zach, DeMar at the 3, and then Patrick Williams at the 4 and Vucevic at the 5. I don't know.
Yeah, that makes the most sense. I mean, Lonzo running point full time is going to be interesting because I think he's best slotted as a secondary playmaker at the 2. But I mean, LaVine is a good creator and obviously he can get his own shot. DeMar DeRozan is basically Zach LaVine without the 3-point shot and maybe 15 less inches on his vert these days. But I mean, I guess it could work, and it's exciting. I think it's really interesting. Yeah. And I guess the one other thing is that because with Vucevic, they're going to be running out of the high post a lot, having a really good spot-up player who can also get downhill, and Lonzo probably makes sense at the 1 because defensively, they're big. You know, I don't think LaVine and DeRozan are that good defensively at this point, but...
Oh, shocking.
Right? I mean, wow. me taking a stand on something, right?
Hot take
over here.
Yeah.
But so Lonzo... being a 6'7", whatever he is, defender at the point, I think at least helps them be able to switch across the board with size and mitigates, I think, a lot of their defensive woes a little bit. And also Lonzo and Pat Williams, hopefully Pat Williams will be ready for it this year, can take on a lot of the big wing responsibility too.
Yeah, and I think the big difference between Levine and DeRozan's game is DeRozan, I think when the ball's in his hands, it doesn't take away, like that's actually a strength. I actually think the ball being Levine's hands a little bit too much isn't his best thing. He's famously like, he has the ball all the time and has more turnovers than assists. Like he's terrible at setting other people up. DeRozan's good at it. And so maybe even DeRozan can have primary ball handling, have Lonzo Ball to move it. I think it could be exciting for the Bulls. But what I think is super interesting is despite all this, if I look at the landscape of the East and these free agent moves that have occurred and even trying to factor in the draft just a tiny bit, I'm not so sure they're going to be that good in the East. I think it's curious. Like, I still think, like the Bucks, they won the title. They're really good. They're not going to take a step back. The Nets are elite, assuming everyone's healthy. And then it's like, I don't know, like there's this big mix of teams. I'm curious how you feel like the Celtics, the team you cover for The Athletic, like, are they still in this conversation? I know they, no, they're out. They're done.
No, well, they're just like, they were the 7 seed last year, right? And I think they were, right? I straight up can't remember at this point.
That feels right. I'm not going to fact check.
They were in the play-in, yeah. So they were the 7, and I don't see them getting ahead of that. I think the Knicks took a big step forward. They took the Celtics backcourt.
They took your backcourt. How do you feel about that? They took the Celtics backcourt. They have Kemba Walker and Evan Fournier now, and you guys replaced that with Josh Richardson and Cantor?
Cantor at the point, right? The Celtics have a couple more moves coming from what I've heard. I thought Danny Green maybe would be one of them, and he's going back to Philly. So I don't really know who's left for them to go for. I don't think they're going to go for Schroeder. I think they're probably just going to stand pat and hope to take a swing at the deadline. And don't forget, they also got Al Horford earlier too.
I honestly did forget part
right?
of the Kemba Walker thing. Yeah, that's amazing. So Al Horford's return, Enes Kanter's return. Who else can come back? Is it Isaiah Thomas? Who else are you guys going to get from Celtics?
That's been the talk. I had one person tell me they heard IT is a real possibility. That I had 3 people tell me they heard it's not happening. So I assume it's not happening, but who knows? Isaiah Thomas. They definitely really do need some sort of microwave on-ball scorer for sure. And everyone loves Isaiah. Like, we all love Isaiah. He's a wonderful human being. It'd be great to have him around. But, like, the guy is barely holding on to an NBA spot. It's just not the level that they need right now.
Of course.
Even if Isaiah is playing better now, there are still other guys on the market they could go for. I straight up can't remember if Lou Will got signed yet or not, but, like,
I think he's still out there.
Good, right?
I don't think he's still out there. Yeah, he's still available.
There's been too many transactions to keep up with. I mean, but Lou Will is, I think, a little bit closer to where he was than Isaiah is at this point. And there's other guys that they could go for on top of that.
Yeah, the Sixers are feeling pretty good right now. They did take Danny Green, who a lot of people were hotly contesting or hotly going for. I think the big story with the Sixers, well, there's a couple of them. One, you have a new center tandem. You have Andre Drummond teaming up with a nemesis in Joel Embiid. They're going to repair some bridges there. There was a lot of trash talk back in the day through social media from Embiid to Drummond. I think it's interesting. Which one of these center tandems in the NBA now would make the better buddy cop movie? Would it be Embiid and Drummond?
Easily.
Or now wait for it, or Rudy Gobert, Hassan Whiteside.
Shit.
I think you could get a little of the Rudy Gobert, a little of that like rush action, Jackie Chan, fish out of water. I'm a French guy. I don't know how to speak English that well. Maybe a little comedy there, a little broad comedy.
Joel is just such a character that even though Hassan is a character, Joel is such an incredible character. And the fact that there's that tension between him and Drummond is this person that thinks he's the best center in the NBA, even though he very clearly is not. I feel like those dynamics would just play off each other so much better, right?
I would think so. I mean, I know Whiteside is I think Whiteside might be more entertaining than Drummond, but I guess Embiid's going to have the bigger role. He's more entertaining than Gobert.
Yeah.
I guess that's our formula we're going to go with. Also in the East, I'm trying to assess this. I guess another one of the heavy hitters is now the Heat. The Heat done a lot of things, bringing in Kyle Lowry, a big one. They also retained Victor Oladipo, hoping he can be healthy just a little bit. Bring in Markieff Morris, PJ Tucker. How do you think the Heat compare to these other teams?
They're right in there. I mean, Lowry doesn't have much responsibility to carry the offense, or as much as he did in Toronto. Allows him to focus on being a playmaker and being a defender. Jimmy Butler hopefully will still be great. They're certainly paying him to still be great. I can't believe he got 5. That was amazing. He's probably gonna be like CP. He's probably gonna be getting the max until he's in his 40s, which is great because I think everyone loves watching him succeed.
I think Jimmy has proven he can make anyone pay $20 for a cup of coffee. So getting them to pay him whatever it is, $50 million 5 years from now, no issue. Totally,
they're probably bidding against themselves.
That's right.
Like, I want 20 mil. They're like, no, we're giving you 35.
That's right.
So yeah, I mean, the fact that they can retain pretty much everybody that matters from their core, replace Iggy with PJ Tucker, who I think is better than Iggy at this point. Oladipo, they get to take a cheap flyer on him to bounce back at some point. I'm glad that they were able to do that. I'm really interested to see if Max Strus breaks into their rotation a little bit more. He's a guy that's like a really nice sharpshooter that you can run around off ball, do a lot of the stuff that Duncan Robinson does. And so it'll be cool to see how their offense does, where you kind of always have one of those real off ball catch and shoot snipers on the floor. I wouldn't be surprised to see him take a bit of a step forward in his role this year.
That'd be interesting. I hope you're basing this not on how he looked last season, where he looked promising. He had a few good games. I hope you're basing this on his performance in the California Classic Summer League game, which occurred on Wednesday night, in which he was
the one I watched 2 minutes of. Yeah,
locked in and on fire.
I'm like, all right, this guy's ready.
That's what I want. I love, man. Some people are like, you shouldn't have hot takes based on Summer League. I'm like, no. I can see a guy play for 5 minutes and understand if he's an NBA player. I have an unbelievable track record at it. I will not slow down.
What is the point of Summer League if we're not going to draw grand conclusions off of it?
You're telling me you can't see a guy shoot 1 3-pointer and be like, nope, not it. Like, I feel like you honestly can. I feel like you can see guys in Summer League take some jumpers and you're like, no, that guy doesn't have the thing. No, not an NBA shooter.
I'll never forget watching Alex Caruso in Vegas in his second year or whatever it was. And
yeah,
he had this one play where he pickpocketed a guy in the backcourt, in the front court, went coast to coast with it, had a huge slam. And I'll just never forget the shock of seeing him get up there. And, it's not fair to just assume white guys can't jump, but this white guy, it was just such a specific shock. And after that, I don't remember where the GOAT thing started. I just remember that was talking about it then at that point.
Well, I mean, it would have never started if he hadn't been white and bald.
Sure.
But what you're saying is you can see Caruso play a Summer League game and recognize that guy probably can make a rotation. Like, you can just tell, that guy has the physicality, the athleticism. He's affecting the game on offense and defense. And that just makes you think all right, he can play. And then those other guys you see immediately, you're like, oh no, that guy's not playing defense, or that guy doesn't seem to look comfortable on the court. It's probably going to be a big uphill battle for him.
Because I think with your Summer League, it's a great place to showcase your primary skill set and see if it really is enough to make a difference. And usually when they get to the regular season, you'll see that they're just exposed in all the other minutiae of the game or just defense. It's a lot of these guys just can't play NBA defense. It's as simple as that. But Strus is one of those guys that you see he can come over those screens and he can just light it up. And teams are always going to want a guy that can clearly light it up and not be a complete liability on defense, because it's really easy to have that 3-and-D role where you don't have to be a ball mover. You can just be a spot up guy who gets a couple pin downs here or there to come over a screen and catch and shoot it. So you can have a very limited and narrow offensive game in the NBA as long as you can just kind of keep up on defense. And so that's why I assume him specifically is going to be able to crack the rotation.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I need to go back through all my previous podcasts. I mean, they're all still public. They're all still out there. I need to go through and do a log of every Summer League. I watched the guy play one game and I was like, this guy's good. Because I know there's some, last year, or was it 2 years ago? No, 2 years ago, because there was a pandemic last year, no Summer League. 2 years ago, I watched one game of Kendrick Nunn. I'd never heard of Kendrick Nunn. And I was like, that guy is faster with the ball in his hands than everyone else in this gym. It popped. You're like, that guy is different than everybody else here. He's probably gonna be a rotation player. And then there's some where you're like, I know there's misses. Here's one miss I had. This guy, Quincy Miller for the Nuggets back in the day. It's like a 6'8". He killed in Summer League. And I was like, I was blown away. I was like, that guy's going to be awesome. That one, no, he was terrible. But there's other guys, you just see him immediately. I think of my Grizzlies days. I watched Wade Baldwin play one quarter and was like, that guy doesn't play. That guy doesn't know what he's doing. His body doesn't work. It's like a weird, it's like a weird mental process where you're like, he's trying to figure out what he's supposed to do, but he has no feel for basketball. Like, yeah.
Why do Wade Baldwin get picked so high when you could see that when you watch him? Because I remember watching him in college. I'm like, this guy's got the builds, but there's something off about the way
I think that's all it is. I'm embarrassed. I never watched him because he played at Vanderbilt in the city I live. And I used to go to Vanderbilt basketball games. Like for a decade, I went to almost every Vanderbilt home game. But it's because he made 40% of his threes in college and his measurables were unbelievable. And so you're like, oh, that's NBA ready point guard. Let's think about a couple other moves before we get you out of here that I think maybe are in like, they don't move the needle as far as like player movement, but I think they're networking moves. I want you to tell me if I'm reading too much into these things. Okay. First, the Sixers have hired Damian Lillard's trainer to be a consultant. Am I reading too much into that?
I mean, you can call Dame to Philly a lock now if that's what you're trying to say.
That's what I'm trying to say.
I don't think a lot of these guys are just, they get the recognition that they deserve and they get a chance somewhere. Someone's putting a word for them. Maybe Dame just putting a word for them or somebody associated putting a word for them. And so it's just like they're getting their shot. But this one's a little too fishy.
It's a little too fishy. Why wouldn't the Trailblazers give Dame's trainer a consulting job? Like that part for me, I know that
would make sense.
Everyone's saying Neil O'Shea actually is trying to force Dame Lillard to be the bad guy. Neil O'Shea loves CJ McCollum, will not trade CJ McCollum. Mark Stein reported on Wednesday night that they're not going to trade CJ McCollum. Like O'Shea loves McCollum. He wants Lillard to be the bad guy, and he's kind of waiting him out for like Lillard to finally, be the public request, whatever it's going to be. And this move here where Daryl Morey hiring his trainer, feels like there's a lot to that.
This is kind of like the rat in Matt Damon's apartment at the end of the party.
A little too on the nose.
It's a little too on the nose, yeah.
Like we'll get it. You don't have to do all that. Although I did see Daryl Morey being much like the average NBA podcaster, tweeting out cleaning the glass lineup stats on Wednesday night when they re-signed Danny Green to let you guys know that, hey, Ben Simmons, Danny Green, Seth Curry, Joel Embiid, Tobias Harris, that's one of the best net ratings in the NBA last year. So, I mean, which is it? Are they going to keep Simmons or are they going to try to trade and bring in Dame?
They're going to keep him at this point.
Conflicting.
They wanted to trade him
messaging.
for Dame and Portland didn't want it. So they're going to have to sit on their hands for now.
So here's one that I'm going to need you to uncover. It's a little bit deeper. This is your hardcore NBA fan. This might be your Dunked on Prime listener. You got to dig this out. And I feel like there's some clues here. The Detroit Pistons made a couple of signings very under the radar. They signed Corey Joseph and Trey Lyles. Not very much money, kind of like who cares signings. But weirdly, both these guys got player options for next year, which is just like, why? Like, why would you do that? I'm thinking both those guys, Corey Joseph and Trey Lyles, they're clutch clients. Is this like some kind of racketeering payment? Like you're paying the protection racket, or you're giving fealty to the king to clutch. You're saying, listen, we will give Corey Joseph $10 million over 2 years. Just keep us in mind. Just next time you're thinking about something, keep us in mind.
I think this is just kind of confirming that LeBron is going to the Pistons in 2 years, right? That's the only way I could read this.
That's another way to read it. He's gotten to look at the work ethic of Anthony Davis, and he's like, no, I'm not in. I want to play with Cade Cunningham.
So what you're saying is a real thing for sure. So teams will do favors to agents, but usually there's a much more kind of clear and immediate leverage happening there or I guess quid pro quo happening there, where so you take care of a lower level player as part of a deal to get like the fish. And Rich Paul has too many people on his client list for me to really know exactly who that fish could be right now. I think he has like half the league right now. Good for him. But so I could definitely see that, but this is a real heavy price to pay. Like you only pay this price if like there's another gang in town that's raiding your store and you need this protection.
You gotta have the protection.
The PO on both of them, like that's insane. Because these are guys at the end of their careers. Trey Lyles and Kojo, I feel like, are kind of on the downslope of their peaks, and this isn't like a player where you're desperately trying to get him in long term. I think what it does fit into, at least with Lyles, like they kind of established a 3-year window when they started making those moves last year. But Olynyk's on a 3-year deal, which I mean, like, hey, Olynyk was good and he's a great fit for what they need. Corey Joseph on the 3-year deal, to them, I don't really understand that. I guess it helps Hayes and Cunningham bridge that gap until they're ready to really command the team. Although I love Killian Hayes, I also love Cade Cunningham. Those are like two of my top guys in the drafts of each year. Shocker that I had Cade Cunningham at the top of the draft last year, but those guys don't really coexist. I don't really see how you play those two guys together unless you're a team that really wants to go double point, which you could do, especially because they both have plus size and good defense. So it's possible that they do them both together, but I assume Hayes is going to get moved at some point for a wing that actually
they could try to do it. I'm not positive Lyles had the player option, but if not, if it's just a 2-year deal, that's
still a 2-year deal. Yeah,
that's even weirder. I mean, I could, again, Corey Joseph, competent veteran, not going to hurt you, going to do some stuff. He can teach your guys the ropes. Just throw to that 2nd-year player option. It's kind of like, all right, what's the long-term play here? Wrapping this up, how do you think the Knicks with your new Celtics backcourt, and how do you think like the Hawks based on what they did last year, and how do you think maybe there are other teams we're not even forgetting? Like, how do you think it all shapes up this Eastern Conference? Are there clear tiers to you? Like, are the Bulls close to the Hawks or the Knicks? Like, are the Knicks going to maintain what they did? I mean, honestly, like Fournier, people are like, that's a little too much. I thought it was a fair contract, but Fournier plus Walker, you're talking those guys for $26 million combined. That's awesome.
Incredible.
Like that, that's incredible value.
Kemba for $8 million a year is the deal of free agency. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Because I mean, he was being overpaid at $34 million, but this is a quarter of it. It's insane. He is getting paid less than the mid-level, and he's a 20-point per game scorer on a bad season. Like, he had a bad year, was still scoring 20 a night basically. And the thing that really sucks for Kemba is that the last basically month of the season, he was averaging like 28 a game. He was on fire. They weren't really vital games, but he was looking good. He wasn't playing at the same level he did before his injury. There's still a few components missing to his game. His, snaking through the lane to get a defender on Jalen's back and then going into his mid-ranger or kind of navigating the paint to get to his shot. That's not there anymore. But his pull-up game was getting into it, and like that's where he's really dangerous. Like, he's the kind of guy that can come over a screen and fire away from 30 feet and knock it down. He was doing a really good job driving with contact into the lane. And let's not forget, the rules have been changed to really help these 6-foot point guards be able to put muscle into guys and get a clear look at the rim. So he's still good at those things. He still can move the ball decently well. On a team with RJ Barrett and Julius Randle running offense through the high post, you don't really need him to be an elite creator. So he's a really good fit for what they need. And there's there's not a ton of pressure on him to be a main contributor, kind of similar how it was in Boston, where he was the third guy basically most of the time. So it's an amazing fit. And then like Fournier is the perfect complement to that. I mean, this offense, they can run like a modern triangle off of Julius Randle in the high post when they need to. They can do some high pick and roll with Kemba. They can run actions to get Fournier coming off of pin downs, down low, all that kind of stuff. They have a really nice variety to their offense that they didn't have last year. Last year, it was just like Barrett and D Rose kind of like going ISO and kicking out, or Randall just doing his thing. And then just everybody on the roster shot 40% from three. This year, I think there's a lot more margin of error for them, where they don't have to have everybody shooting lights out. They still have a good enough offense, while their defense should hold up pretty nicely. I mean, they made Elfrid Payton work last year defensively. I'm pretty sure they can help Kemba not be a terrible defender. So the Knicks are an exciting team, and they're almost knocking on the door of tier 1B, I guess, but they're not quite there. Atlanta, I think they're at the head of tier 2A, I guess. I wouldn't put them at the same tier as Philadelphia or Milwaukee or Brooklyn. And even though Milwaukee just won the title, I still have Brooklyn as 1A in the Eastern Conference.
So one team I hadn't mentioned, which made some news this week as part of the 5-way Westbrook trade, is the Washington Wizards. We can close with the Wizards. What do you make of their playoff chances? They're getting into your tiers, either your 1Bs or 2As. I'm going to need a graph later to see exactly, or a chart to show exactly where your tiers are. But like the Wizards adding Spencer Dinwiddie, KCP, and Kyle Kuzma, like that's good offseason. Like that's some nice work. Like, how do the Wizards slot in here?
And they have Montrez still, right?
They got Montrez. I don't know how much he's going to play. I actually like Thomas Bryant. I don't know what his health is. Him returning from injury. Like, I'm kind of a fan of him. I don't know what their front court exactly is going to look like, but yeah, Montrez is still there. Bertans still there. Then you got, Denny Avdia. Like, they have some okay pieces, some fun pieces. Raul Netu's returning, which honestly is like a good signing. He's a good backup point guard. So
Harrison Matthews had a really good year last year.
They're a solid squad that wants to make the playoffs. Where are you? How do they stack up against some of these teams?
Yeah, I think they should definitely be a 7 or 8 seed this year. They got a shot at it. Dinwiddie, if he's fully healthy, is going to give them a 20-point scorer that can play make. I mean, he's a solid point guard. He's probably a better fit next to Beal, in that he is not completely out of control all the time, and I think can actually get a useful pull-up game that will mean teams can't really sit back into the lane quite as much. I mean, that wasn't really a huge problem for Beal, but I mean, there's always a little bit more margin to grow, I guess, with giving him more freedom to operate. So this should be an upgrade. I mean, Washington, when Russ is at his best, obviously is going to be better than what they are now, even with all this depth, but Russ isn't always at his best. I mean, it takes Russ to find a long time to find his best, and I'm excited to see what he does with the Lakers. But the Wizards should be a more balanced team throughout the regular season and just accumulate more wins, because they're not going to be garbage for like half the year. So I'm excited to see what they do, but they're not really going anywhere still. Beal is going to leave at some point, because I can't imagine he's going to spend his whole career on a team that, like, this team doesn't really have a clear pathway to getting into the top half of the East right now, unless Avdia really, really emerges, which I like his game, but I just don't see him turning into like a real commanding primary player.
He's a role player. Yeah. I think what's the Wizards stat? They haven't won 50 games in like 30 years. Like, that's like impossible. How's that possible? I don't know.
Maybe Wes Unseld will come back.
Maybe he will. Well, yeah, I mean, obviously, you got a son, Wes Unseld Jr. Taking over. Go. Anyway, hey, Jared, thanks for coming on so much. Go get that breakfast, and we'll talk to you soon sometime.
It's going to be a fast break, delicious meal. I'm excited for it.
Perfect. All right, I'm joined right now by Caitlin Cooper, the great Indiana Pacers writer and podcaster. Caitlin, I'm not that interested in the Pacers. You can tell me, bring me up to speed. What have they done? They lost Doug McDermott. What else?
Well, they hired Rick Carlisle. That's their main acquisition this summer.
That's the season ticket sales. Call up the guys. Hey, listen, we added Rick Carlisle. That's the way we're gonna move these tickets, right?
Yep. And Torrey Craig. Any team that has they're going to the NBA Finals. Any team that has Torrey Craig goes to the NBA Finals. This season proved that.
Oh, that's interesting. I thought it was any team that got the highest paid Pelican player from the previous season goes to the finals. That's the Grizzlies this year. Also, the team that picked 10th in the draft last year went to the finals. That was the Suns. That's also the Grizzlies. So I know we got some competing things. Also, I found out today Zach LaVine has won 4 games in a row for the first time since college, which based on Team USA, and that goes to my Devin Booker had never won 4 games in a row until last year in the bubble since college, and he made the finals. So maybe the Bulls are going to the finals.
There's a lot of competing things going on here. I mean, I think it could be a Pacers-Grizzlies NBA Finals. I don't think this is out of the question.
Adam Silver's dream. Pacers, Grizzlies. No, I want you to wrap up today's show. I've asked you to come on and maybe step outside of your comfort zone. You like to be an expert on the Pacers, but you know the entire NBA. And I'm asking you on the 4th day of NBA free agency to give me the top 8 teams, the top 8 teams in the East right now, based on player movement, whatever you want to say, coach movement. Some guys got Rick Carlisle in the door. All right. So who's your top team right now?
Well, first of all, I just want to say that when you disagree with me, I expect you to either answer with that. Why do you hate that team? Or do you even watch the games? Like, if that's not your response, then that's what I'm expecting.
I got it.
But I need to tack on a number 9, because if I don't tack on number 9, fans are going to yell.
No. I want to start with 1, because I feel like
we're starting with number 1.
No. The interesting issue, I think, is like 4 through 10. Yeah. Like, let's start with number 1. Okay. Then you can give your caveats or whatever you need to do when we get to the bottom of the list.
All right. So number 1, I have Brooklyn. Like, I don't think we need a lot of explanation there. Like, their offense is ridiculous. They added Patty Mills. Like, good. they're a toe away from going to the finals this year. So
That's right.
Okay, so then number 2, we're going the Bucks. Clearly, like I think the Bucks are right there still. I don't like that they lost PJ Tucker and weren't willing to pay the luxury tax. I think that's kind of silly, but overall, like they're going to add back DiVincenzo. George Hill's coming back. He's going to have less responsibility than he did the last time. Rodney Hood is fine if he's remotely healthy. Like he's probably more playable in the playoffs than Bryn Forbes. I mean, honestly,
yeah.
In some situations, like he's not going to get hunted as much. And Ojale, maybe he can do some of the PJ Tucker stuff. Like I'm not, super high on Ojale, but whatever. So I think that it's pretty clearly Nets, Bucks, 1-2.
100% agreement. All right, now let's get interesting. Who's your third team right now?
Okay, I'm expecting. Do you watch the games? I have the Heat. I put Miami number 3.
Did Chuck tell you to say this? You have the Heat third?
He's as high on the Heat as I am too.
Chuck thinks the Heat are always winning the title. So, okay, third. I think it's fair. Fair. I'm giving you a hard time. I think that's a reasonable opinion.
Yeah, like I think that there's probably a happy middle between what they were in the bubble and what they were last year. Like I think that the teams that went to the top 4 in the bubble had a pretty hard life last year, but just taking PJ Tucker from the Bucks, I think helps them. But beyond that, like Kyle Lowry, I just think that's a really good ad, even though he didn't have like the best total season with what went on with the Raptors last year.
Yeah.
Because in part, like in my opinion, if you take the idealized version of the rim roll, the short roll, and pick and pop, I think the short roll is what scares NBA defenses the most. And if you throw Kyle Lowry out there, like I don't think we've fully seen Bam's playmaking to this extent. Like I'm not going to say that he's completely on the same level as Draymond in that category, but he's pretty good. And he's never had somebody that's this quality of a point guard to be able to do that with. And at the same time, you're going to be able to have Jimmy Butler attacking out of rotation more. That's going to take stuff off of him. And they just don't have as many people to have to hide on defense. Like normally they have at least 2 weak links on the floor that teams can target and go at, and if Kyle Lowry's out there, you don't. If PJ Tucker's out there, you don't. I think Tucker gives them some of the Crowder stuff. And Kyle Lowry can boost their transition offense a little bit, which isn't something they've really had. So I like the Heat's overall picture.
They're going to be good. I have them 4th, but so okay. I'm not too far off. So who's your 4?
I have the Sixers. 4th.
All right, so Sixers are my 3rd. So we have the same top 4. That makes sense.
And I only dinged the Sixers here because I'm assessing them a bit of a soul tax. I feel like there's going to be some soul sucking that goes on from this Ben Simmons situation. Like I don't think that Ben Simmons is probably going to play another game for the Sixers. If he does, like how prickly is that going to get? Like there's reports this morning that he's not even talking to the team. That the only person that's talking to the team is Rich Paul. Like I don't know. And then because I don't know what you're getting in exchange for Ben Simmons, I feel like I have to hedge my bets a little bit here because maybe they go for a package of like an in-between thing. Like maybe they deal Ben Simmons to the Spurs and they get a couple young guys and a bunch of draft picks. And that's just their means to get Damian Lillard later. I don't know. If they get Damian Lillard, I'd probably boost him up from where they are right now. Joel Embiid's amazing. Great. Good that they signed Danny Green back. I think George Niang is going to be a better Mike Scott than what Mike Scott was last year. And
you lost me. You lost me on George.
You don't think George Niang is going to be better than what Mike Scott was?
George. Well, okay, that's a low bar.
That's what I'm saying.
I'm saying George Niang. He was a fine regular season player, great 3-point shooter, absolutely worthless in the playoffs. And I think at this point, we're gotten to the point. I'm on these 4 teams. I'm not curious, like what can you do in the playoffs? But anyway, we got the top 4. Now we get interesting.
Right.
So who's 5th for you?
I feel like I have to pay respect to the team that just went to the Eastern Conference Finals. So I'm going with the Hawks.
I think I'm with you. Yeah, I think I'm gonna go Hawks 5 as well. But now I feel like these are all bunched together, and I have no idea what's gonna happen. For me, it's they made it to the finals. Maybe they learned some things. Maybe they had a slightly easy road. But you think Trae Young's gonna get better. You think DeAndre Hunter is gonna add a lot, and he missed the playoffs. So I think it's fair. But also, what if that magic's just gone? Maybe they're that Nate McMillan magic. You are the world's foremost Nate McMillan expert. Like, is it going to wear off in year 2?
Right. So I think that the one thing you can say there is that they didn't have a training camp with Nate McMillan last year. Like, they're going to come into this season.
What if that's a bad thing?
I don't think it's going to be because their players seem to really like and respect what he did last year, at least more so than with Lloyd Pierce. Like, I do think that there's a chance that they may stagnate. And maybe when they're all the way healthy, there's some, a little bit harder to distribute minutes out because like that never completely happened last year where all of their wings and everybody was healthy at the same time. But I do think that with Nate McMillan as your coach, you're going to reach your floor. How high they get during the season and into the playoffs is always somewhat of a question. I think the Sixers should have beat them. Like I think the Sixers should have won that series.
Yeah. So. Poor Danny Green, him being out maybe. All right. Who's next?
Okay, well, this is the pick that I hate, and I have no idea. Like, I honestly had the most trouble assessing the team that I cover, but I actually put the Pacers here. I don't feel good about it. But I did.
What?
Yeah, I know. Do you even watch the games? Like, I don't know if I do watch the games.
This is shocking to me.
Yeah, it's shocking to me too, because
you better tell your Pacers friends to listen to this show. This is the most positive Pacers coverage we've ever gotten.
I think it probably is the most positive I've ever been about them.
Sell me on the Pacers outside without using the words Rick Carlisle.
Well, can I use the words Bjorkgren? Because I think that this matters a bit, and this is what I'm going to explain about it.
Addition by subtraction, Bjorkgren style?
Yes, this is what I'm explaining about it. Like, I actually think that losing McDermott's going to hurt them a little bit more than it seems, just because that was a great wavelength between he and Sabonis. That was the number one assist combo on the Pacers last year, was Sabonis to McDermott. I think they lose some of their motion there. But under McMillan the prior season, okay, the Pacers were a top 6 defense under Nate McMillan with this same core. Although they were starting Jeremy Lamb while Victor Oladipo was out. I do not think Karis LeVert is a particularly good defender, but he is no worse than Jeremy Lamb at the 2 spot. If they are just a competent defense, like if they just get rid of, we need to reinvent the wheel and be running the most gimmicky things that don't make sense half the time and that are hyper aggressive and underbaked at the exact same moment. Like, I literally went back and watched some of their clips, and you're not going to find another team that was going over against screens against Ben Simmons on double drags 30 feet from the basket. And this was the thing that the Pacers regularly did, in addition to running box and 1 and 2-3 that they had no clue what they were doing in. So if Rick Carlisle just comes in and implements a normal system, their offense did make improvements last year, and that was without TJ Warren, and they missed 25 games that TJ Warren and LeVert did not play in. So that's basically with Brogdon and Sabonis carrying a huge load. Like, I don't know how much I believe in their overall playoff ceiling. And if you told me that they were in 9th or 10th, I would probably be like, sure. Like, I feel like they have a very wide range here because their locker room could completely
Do you want me to tell you
implode.
where I have them right now?
Is it 9th? Because I had them in 9th yesterday.
No.
Where?
Got them at 11th.
Yeah, like and I'm not even yelling about that. Like, I think they have a very wide range here.
Am I forgetting some players? Let me think. We got Brogdon, we got LeVert, we got TJ Warren, Sabonis, Turner.
Yeah.
Anybody else I care about?
Well, TJ McConnell was very good for them last year.
Hey, TJ got paid. He's gonna largesse now. He's gonna quit hustling. No, I don't know. No, yeah, TJ McConnell, solid player, sure. I hear you're trying to get rid of Jeremy Lamb.
Yeah, I mean, I think that that's still an option. I don't know that this roster is completely done yet either. Like, and if you told me too, like, well, that team needed to make a trade, like, because their locker room might implode, like, that's entirely possible. That's why I said, like, if they finish the season and I look at it and they're in like 9th or 10th, I'd be like, sure, that.
Okay, so tell me why you hate the next few teams.
Okay, so number 7, I have the Knicks.
Okay. Yeah, I think the Knicks are going to be good. I think the Walker Fournier is a great addition to what they had last year. Like, that's a
yeah. Because, I mean, I know Boston fans are going to be like, did you watch Kemba last year? And I'm like, the only bar he has to clear is being better than Elfrid Payton. Like, Kemba Walker literally just needs to be better than what Elfrid Payton was. I think.
Yeah, and Kemba had some great. I was just talking to Jared Weiss. He was saying, like, Kemba had great stretches. Like, when he played, he's not going to do back-to-backs probably, but like when he played, he was solid. And on that Knicks team, I think he's going to be huge. Yeah, I think that's totally fair. Who's after the Knicks for you?
The Bulls.
Okay.
I don't feel good about that one either. I think that
you have the Bulls at 8. This is so exciting. I love it. All these moves just to get the 8 seed.
Yeah. I mean, the offensive fit is totally there. Like, this is going to be a lot of space for DeMar DeRozan. Levine can put a lot of pressure on the rim. Lonzo's not going to have to, which isn't really his thing. He can just be like a play connector. Vucevic can run 2-man game with Levine, and DeMar can kind of be, I don't know. He doesn't space a 3, but I think he can do things there. I think the fit's all the way there offensively. I get it. I mean, DeMar alone, like, they were like 30th in free throw attempts last year, and he averages like 7 per game. Like, that helps them. But the defense, I have a lot of questions about. Plus, they feel a little bit top heavy. I think that they don't have a lot of depth at the forward positions. Like, Patrick Williams is really going to have to step up, and that's asking a lot of a second-year player, it feels like. So, if you're in the fourth quarter of a game, like, they can get to decent defensive lineups, like Lonzo and Caruso. Caruso's a great point of attack defender, but are you going to tell DeMar DeRozan at the end of a close game, like, hey, we're going to bench you paying $20 million a year, and Caruso's going to close this game?
Oh, it's more than 20. It's more than $20 million a year.
Well, yeah, whatever it was, 85. What did he?
It's close to 30. That, for me, that's the huge question among the Bulls. Like, are you telling me you're going to bench DeMar or Zach LaVine? Like, for big stretches? Like, that's the huge question. So you have the Celtics missing the playoffs. I mean, they're a play-in. Do you have them at 9th, or do you have someone else above them?
No, I have them at 9th, and this is the one that I needed to explain. Because if you told me that the Celtics were in 6th and the Pacers were in 9th, I'd be like, sure, that's
so. I have Celtics in 6th. We haven't said that. That's my 6th. I had Celtics at 6, and then same thing. Knicks 7, Bulls 8. But so
this is the one that I need to explain it. And I'm sure that Boston people would be like, last year was weird. The top 4 that went to the bubble, like there was a lot of drain there, and then they had the COVID stuff, like, and that completely makes sense to me. But they were a 500 team, and I don't really think that the moves that they made them better. Like defensively, if you have Marcus Smart and Tatum and Brown and Richardson on the floor, that's going to be a very good defensive team. But Richardson and Smart also shot 33% from 3 last year. Like, I don't think the spacing is going to be there. And ideally for Jason Tatum, which I think he could be like a top 10 player this year. Like, I really enjoy Jason Tatum. But do you want Jalen and Jason to have to be spacing the floor for those other guys? Like Marcus Smart, I think, can play point guard. He has some nice passing in him, especially had good chemistry with Horford the last time he was there. But like, I want Jalen and Jason to be able to be creating advantages and spraying out to shooters, which they do not have. Like, this just feels like not a very deep roster. Maybe Nesmith makes a jump, but he's going to need to. Like, and maybe you could start him and bring Richardson off the bench. I don't know. But then even at the forward spots, like you have Jabari Parker and Grant Williams, I think, at the 4. So are Jalen and Jason going to be getting banged around by bigger guys? Like, it just feels like there's a lot of wear and tear potential there. They lost a lot of the offensive punch. You know, maybe they keep their powder dry and next year they get like Bradley Beal or somebody. I don't know. Like, I don't think it's a bad year. But then Udoka is the only coach of all of these people who has absolutely no experience. Like, he's an unknown entity. I think according to past stops, he's good at coaching defense, and this is going to be a defense first team, but we do not know what to expect from him. I don't know what he's going to implement, and I might be shell-shocked from not knowing what Bjorken was going to do and then being like, oh, that's what he was going to do. So, yeah.
So which of the teams that we left out and their fans are furious? I mean, maybe I'm just too optimistic thinking about the Celtics, of an unfounded optimism based on them being good, 2 and 3 years ago. Which one of these remaining teams? You got the Wizards. Obviously, they assume they're going to make a playoff push with their additions. And then there's, I will tell you, by the way, the teams I had above the Pacers, I had Wizards and Hornets above the Pacers. I have a lot of belief in whatever Charlotte has cooking. But also, I didn't know what to do about the Raptors.
Like, no, I don't either.
Like, what in the world? Like, what if Scotty Barnes is amazing and they have all this just talent in Fred VanVleet and Anunoby and Siakam, and then we have all these unknowns like the lottery teams, the Magic and the Cavs and the Pistons. Which among those teams do you think maybe have the chance to break through? Is it just?
Yeah, I don't hate your Hornets pick. I probably didn't give them enough consideration, to be honest, and maybe some of it was because of like how badly they flamed out in that play-in game. And it probably isn't fair to assess a team on what they did in a play-in game when Gordon Hayward wasn't even playing. But I mean, they do have very good vibes. I like their offensive flow. Like, they could press in here. And I actually think Spencer Dinwiddie's probably a little bit underrated. I think he's very malleable, gets to the line nicely, can create a little bit of his own offense. Like, I don't think that the Wizards made bad moves. They're fine.
Yeah.
Like, I just kind of feel like they're fine.
Yeah, I think the thing I might be underrating on the Celtics are the bad vibes. Like, I feel like the Hornets have good vibes. I think there's a good chance the Celtics do have those bad vibes. All right, so wrapping up your 8 right now on August 5th, you said Nets, Bucks, Heat, Sixers are your 1 through 4, and then 5 the Hawks, 6 the Indiana Pacers, 7 the Knicks, and 8 the Chicago Bulls.
I feel like the Pacers are going to make me look the dumbest potentially out of all of these. Like,
listen,
I feel like we can go back and look at that.
I so strongly believe that it will, that almost means it won't. I think that's a vote in your favor. Like, how passionate I feel that is wrong is going to prove it's going to end up showing that you were the one who was right and I was the one who was
wrong. If nothing else, we're going to finally know. I mean, their starting 5 has not played a minute together. So if nothing else, we're going to finally know exactly what they are.
Also, I think I've been the most wrong about the Pacers each of the last 3 seasons in my preseason predictions.
I mean, they were good for the first 10 games last year. Like, before TJ Warren broke the foot and
the Cavs were good for the first 10 games.
Right. That's noisy, but I'm just saying, like, their defense wasn't bad, and offensively, the 5 of them seemed to be clicking before Victor got traded and TJ broke his foot. Which, I mean, the health alone is reason to question their placement at number 6, since one of them is constantly sidelined for like a month at a time. But
yeah. Well, Caitlin, thanks for coming on. Incredible job directing this to the Pacers, even though I specifically asked you not to. Love the work. Look forward to the next time you come on.
Yep.
All right. Hey, thanks, Caitlin.
No problem. Thanks for having me on.
See you.
See ya.